So yeah, we need to talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. From The Guardian, legal deportation of Maryland man has become a flashpoint as Trump tests limits of his executive power. This story has really fucked me up in the last couple days. I have legitimately lost sleep over it, over thinking of this shit, because it feels very much like peering into an abyss. Like, this is some Elie Wiesel night shit. This is harrowing in a way that, like, you can look at all the stuff about the economy, you can look at all the stuff about trans rights, and you can look at it and you go, okay, but you get this motherfucker out of office, you do this, that, and the other, you can fix this. The thing we're about to dive into is existentially maddening in a way that there is no correction for. There is no recourse morally. On Tuesday, a federal judge rebuked the Trump administration for taking no steps to secure his release, despite a Supreme Court order that, mind you, was 9-0. The administration previously conceded his deportation was an administrative error, but has since refused to bring him back and dug in on its contention that it should not be responsible for his repatriation. Abrego Garcia, 29, is a Salvadorian immigrant who entered the U.S. illegally around 2011 because he and his family were facing threats by local gangs. In 2019, he was detained by police outside a Home Depot. He denied knowledge of a crime, repeatedly denied he was part of a gang. He was subsequently put in immigration proceedings where officials argued they believed he was part of the MS-13 gang in New York based on his Chicago Bulls gear and on the word of a confidential informant. A U.S. immigration judge granted him protection from deportation because he was likely to face gang persecution. He was released, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement did not appeal or try to deport him. He was living in Maryland with his wife, a U.S. citizen, and has had a work permit since 2019. The couple are parents to their son and their 2 children from a previous relationship. So, work permit, married to a U.S. citizen, has 2 children, very likely providing for his family. If he was a vicious gang member, which, by the way, the narrative that if you needed any more proof that places like Newsmax, places like Fox News are just now state-run media, that they just serve the whims of Trump, go watch those fucking sycophantic weasels, Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld, talk about this, having probably never actually worked an honest job a day in their fucking cushy lives. Talk about this man as if he's just a piece of meat to be discarded because it went rotten. He was detained on 12 March and was questioned about gang affiliation. He was deported on one of 3 high-profile deportation flights. Flight also included Venezuelans whom the government accuses of being gang members and assumed special powers to expel without a hearing. Now, here's the really important part, right? None of these people faced any kind of due process. None of these people had any kind of hearing. They were, in a very real sense, racially profiled, gathered up, and sent to a prison in another fucking country that, by the way, it sure seems like we are paying for them to maintain this. He's currently being detained in the Center for Terrorism Confinement, a controversial mega prison in Tecoluca, El Salvador, known for its harsh conditions. The U.S. is paying El Salvador $6 million to house people who it alleges are members of the Tren de Aragua gang for a year. Alleges. Mind you, again, no due process, no fucking proof for any of this shit. That is an incredible thing to contemplate for a moment. The fact that this is just one of many people who have been just snatched, black-bagged, and sent to another fucking country. They say this was an administrative error. Now, here's the double down, the backlash, all of this shit, and where it comes down to. They acknowledged that it was a mistake. They've been ordered to facilitate him coming back. And now, both Trump and Bukele, who was at the White House a couple days ago, are refusing to do anything about it. This has led to a lot of, and I've had time to think about this. This has led to a lot of speculation of if he's even still alive, and I'll get to that more. But let's go to the scumfucks running interference for this life-ruining fuck-up of a man, a working-class man with 2 children, and a citizen who's his wife, who was extradited without any kind of due process, who had a work permit for 6 years.
There. White House argues it does not have to bring him back. Supreme Court says you have to facilitate that. Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Homeland Security Advisor, here to straighten it out. And, sir, good morning to you. Got a couple minutes. I want to motor through a bunch of things here, okay? Here's the argument on topic number 1. DOJ said a federal court cannot compel the executive branch to engage in any mandated act of diplomacy or incursion upon the sovereignty of another nation. So your argument is that you don't have to bring him back home, but will you?
So I want to correct, I hate to do it, Bill, but I got to correct you on every single thing that you said, because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case, clearly, 9-0. A district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration have to go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizens, an El Salvadorian citizen, so that would be kidnapping, that we have to...
Fucking kidding. Okay, so let me fucking get this straight. This is the line this dipshit is going with. Is A, just straight up lying about the Supreme Court case. B, saying that, okay, if Americans went into a prison that we pay them to maintain, by the way, where we put a prisoner, it would be kidnapping. That's the fucking... That's what you're going with. You sat down. You put your thinking cap on that stupid, bald, megamind ass head, and you were like, yeah, that's the move. They'll fucking eat this shit up.
Kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and fly him back to America, which would be an unimaginable act and an invasion of El Salvador's sovereignty. So we appealed to the Supreme Court, and it said clearly, no district court can compel the president to exercise his Article 2 foreign powers in any way whatsoever. DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media.
White House defiant against Supreme Court says ruling was in our favor. Stephen Miller egregiously represented a Supreme Court order. Term misinformation has become somewhat overused in recent times. It seems applicable here. Miller egregiously represented what the Supreme Court actually said. Was he lying? He was lying. Yeah. District Court's order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and ensure the case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador, which, by the way, probably not actually what Stephen Miller is saying. Is like, oh, he'd be deported anyway. Probably fucking not. If it was handled properly and he actually got due process. In a 9-0 ruling, they declined to block a lower court's order to facilitate bringing back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You ruled unanimously the administration must try to release a Maryland man. He's just fucking lying.
To El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's
believe
an illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador. Hold on, this is important. In 2019, he was ordered deported. He has a final removal order from the United States. In
2019, he got a work permit. Once again, they are lying. Do not believe what you see with your eyes. Believe exactly what we tell you.
These are things that no one disputes. Where is he from? El Salvador. Where is he a resident and citizen of? El Salvador. Is he here illegally? Yes. Does he have a deportation order? Yes. A DOJ lawyer who has since been relieved of duty, a saboteur, a Democrat, put into a...
So that should be another fucking massive red flag. The person who disagreed with us, we fired. For real? Again, you're just saying this shit. Like...
filing incorrectly that this was a mistaken removal. It was not. This was the right person sent to the right place.
Are you convinced he is still a member of MS-13? That was your original charge.
Yes, not only, but here's the thing, Bill. Yes, but here, not only am I convinced of it, not only is El Salvador convinced of it, Bill, he's an illegal alien from El Salvador with the deportation.
He didn't have a deportation order. He might be an illegal alien from El Salvador. He was fleeing gang violence. He has an established life here, a work permit here. And there is, again, no evidence that has come out that he's actually MS-13. There are no pictures of him running guns and running drugs and fucking fentanyl and all this other bullshit they want to talk about. Because they don't fucking have it. And they are just lying until this shit goes away.
So his only options in life, Bill, his only options in life are to be deported to El Salvador or to be deported to some other country. That's it. He has a deportation order. So, Bill, you tell me, what country should we deport him to? Tell me, please. Tell me.
So Marco Rubio on Sunday morning said this. On Saturday night, another 10 criminals from MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, foreign terrorist organizations, arrived in El Salvador. The alliance between the president and president of El Salvador has become an example for security and prosperity in our hemisphere. So I don't know if this comes up today. I imagine it will. Is Gitmo still open? Are there any illegal immigrants who have been taken to Guantanamo Bay today, or has that prison been closed?
It's not been closed.
It's wide open. Gitmo is open. There are a number of foreign terrorist aliens that are being housed.
I'd like to also point out that for most of my adulthood and childhood, Gitmo has been regarded as one of the bleakest dark spots on American foreign policy. The black site where we took unknowable amounts of brown people in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. Did God knows what to them. Who knows what became of how many of them, how many people have spent most of their lives, their short lives on this earth rotting away there. And it says so much that he responds to questions of it still being open with a childlike glee.
But I want to be very, very clear about this, Bill. We've been living through a hoax. Nobody was mistakenly sent to El Salvador. He was ordered deported from this country in 2019.
So this motherfucker wants you to believe that we took hundreds and hundreds of people who have been living here, some of them, like this man, for many, many years, over a decade. And he wants you to believe that without any kind of due process, any kind of processing apparatus whatsoever, just gathering people basically off the street, housing them in squalid conditions, and then mounting them immediately onto a fucking plane for their little photo ops with fucking Hitler, Barbie, Christy Gnome, that there were no people mistakenly taken. That's the line. They've decided to keep digging in.
And I'm sorry to everyone that you've been living through this media hoax. And we won the Supreme Court case. They overturned the ruling of the district court and said clearly that no administration can be compelled to engage in foreign policy to extradite a citizen of another country.
I want to squeeze this in. The activists from Columbia University won a case there from a judge saying you can be deported. There'll be an appeals process that could go on for some time. Will Mahmoud Khalil be deported from the United States? Quick answer on that, please.
Yes, he will, as will anyone who preaches hate for America. His organization said they wanted to eradicate Western civilization. Look, under this country, under this administration, under President Trump, people who hate America, who threaten our citizens, who rape, who murder, and who support those who rape and murder are going to be ejected from this country. And
notably, actual rapists like Andrew Tate have been welcomed by the conservatives like this fuck with open arms. Trump himself, naturally a rapist. Him basically, again, don't let it slip past you and all the bullshit. Him equating a peaceful Palestinian protester, somebody calling for ceasefire and organizing for an international conflict that people like Stephen Miller, just want to see wiped off the board, just want to see forgotten about. So people like Trump can fucking raise Gaza to the ground and put up some kind of fucking apartment development. And he wants to equate a peaceful protester with a rapist and a murderer and gang members and all this other shit. So that brings me to the really dark part of this. Somehow, it still has room to get so much darker. Let's see if I can find Kristi Noem. Yeah, Virginia congressman posts selfie with inmates at maximum security prison. Kristi Noem uses inmates in photo op. The jail will eventually hold more than 40,000 people. This is where they've been sending people who've made lives here. People who have no criminal records. People who fled here, fled violence. Who have families, children. People who are hairdressers. People who have friends. This is what Stephen Miller wants to happen. Each has 32 cells of about 100 square meters to hold more than 100 prisoners in each cell, the government says. The cells only have 2 sinks and 2 toilets each. People held in CECOT, mind you, again, these are people who did not face any kind of proper processing before they were sent here. Denied communications with the relatives and lawyers only appear before courts in online hearings, often in groups of several hundred detainees at the same time. The Salvadoran government has described people in CECOT as terrorists and has said that they will never leave. Human Rights Watch is not aware of any detainees who have been released. The government of El Salvador denies human rights groups access to its prisons that has only allowed journalists and social media influencers under highly controlled circumstances. In videos produced during these visits, Salvadoran authorities are seen saying the prisoners only leave the cell for 30 minutes a day. Some are held in solitary confinement, which are completely dark. Over 3,300 children have been detained, many without any ties to gang activity or criminal organizations. Human Rights Watch documented 66 cases of children subjected to torture, ill treatment, and appalling conditions, including at times extreme overcrowding, unhygienic conditions, and inadequate access to food and medical care. In February, the Legislative Assembly approved a law ordering the transfer of children detained for organized crime to the country's adult prison system, exposing them to a heightened risk of abuse and violating international juvenile justice standards. A third-day detainee held in prison in June 2022 described being sent to what he described as a punishment cell. He said officers moved him and others there to make room for other detainees. The new cell was constantly dark. Detainees had to sleep standing due to overcrowding, and there was no regular access to drinking water. In one case, a person who died in custody was buried in a mass grave without the family's knowledge. This practice could amount to an enforced disappearance if authorities intentionally concealed the fate or whereabouts. Interviewees with deportees and their relatives or friends, we collected accounts of 3 male deportees from the United States who said they were beaten by police or soldiers during arrest, followed by beatings during their time in custody, which lasted between 3 days to over a year. During their time in prison, 2 of these individuals reported being kicked in the face and testicles. A third man described being kicked by guards in his neck and abdomen, after which he sustained injuries requiring an operation for a ruptured pancreas and spleen, months-long hospitalization, and 60 days of post-release treatment. I accidentally did that. For those who didn't see, I clicked out of the picture of Holocaust survivors being rescued and over to this headline about that prison. And they look the same. ICE director envisions Amazon-like mass deportation system, Prime, but with human beings. Trump immigration officials tout expanding the Alien Enemies Act while courting private contractors for mass removal. So not only are we going to see more people, by the way, very likely U.S. citizens, they're already floating the idea of U.S. citizens. Like don't make a mistake. Trump just casually saying, "Oh, we're sending quote unquote homegrowns." That's what he was saying to Bukele. Oh, we got to send homegrowns there. People who were born in America are going to be exported to a place where American citizens won't be able to see them easily. Out of sight, out of mind. But what will stop any of those people from being political agitators? When you have peaceful Palestinian protesters being targeted, being labeled alongside terrorists and rapists and murderers, saying just because they hate America, they need to leave. What's going to stop when there's no political process? When there's not even a judicial process for the people that they're sending to likely torture, malnutrition, death right now. So, what does the conservative contingent of America do? Let's fucking turbocharge that shit and make money off of it. If we're gonna fucking ethnically cleanse, well, hell, Tom Homan thinks we might as well make a buck too. The leader of ICE said that his dream for the agency is squads of trucks rounding up immigrants for deportation the same way Amazon trucks crisscross American cities delivering packages. We need to get better at treating this like a business. Several speakers, including Homan, told the military-industrial complex representatives that the Trump administration is depending on the private sector to implement its mass deportation agendas. Quote, "We need to buy more beds, more airplane flights, and I know a lot of you here are here for that reason. Let the badge and guns do the badge and gun stuff. Everything else, let's contract out." Oh, the Mirror has a list of companies. Let's go down the list. See who's going to be making up this Amazon. Let's see. ARX perimeters. By the way. And I'm not saying anything. I'm not advocating anything, certainly. But all of these people have addresses. They have CEOs who run these companies. They have homes. Got Covercraft Industries, automotive, marine, and recreational vehicle products. Dragon Force is a command and control team collaboration platform. Wow. Geospatial data into game-changing intelligence, powered by our AI-driven Lens platform. Logitech. You should not forget that in Nazi Germany, famously, many major companies, Hugo Boss, Volkswagen, acquiesced and profited from the Nazi regime. Unless you needed reminding, after seeing Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all the fucking billionaires at Trump's inauguration sucking his tiny little toad dick, capital doesn't have morality. They have shareholders. And for shareholders, what is morally right and acceptable can be put on fucking hold. Matthews Environmental Solutions, a leader in the design and manufacture of advanced combustion systems, including cremation equipment, waste-to-energy conversion, and emission control systems. With more than 5,000 installations across 7 continents, we have helped set the standard for productivity, reliability, and environmental performance worldwide. Look at all of the people. Just think of all these companies of various size. I'm sure some of them have hundreds of employees. I'm sure some of them are just little startups. All of the people who have financial interests in the cruelty we just saw. All of the people who are betting on people they've never met, people they don't know, people with lives, families, children, hopes, dreams, being sent into a hell on earth torture hole. The mayor examined the list of companies in attendance and found that some of them have ties to Trump, such as Anduril Industries, which is tied to Peter Thiel. The director of defense technology was nominated by Trump to serve as the Army's number 2 private prison company, Geo Group, an ICE contractor who has seen its stock price skyrocket since Trump's election, was also present at the event. Honan defended the controversial Alien Enemies Act, the 1798 law that was last used during World War II to intern Japanese Americans, famously something that people is still taught is a good thing today. Lyons says that he hopes they can infuse artificial intelligence into the process to free up bed space and fill up airplanes, taking immigrants back to their home countries at a faster rate. There's been no evidence of widespread voter fraud connected to illegal immigration. You notice how all of these things they're doing as they inch closer to just... we literally already saw Stephen Miller talk about how one person at the DHS who was a liberal, who was against Donald Trump, who's been fired, by the way, we already saw that they don't have a problem just letting people go if they don't fall in line with their agenda. So, where does that go? It doesn't take a fucking brilliant political analyst to see that there is unless something fucking stops, something big happens. There's a very real fucking I wouldn't be fucking surprised. I'm shocked, so I need to talk a little bit about this. Maryland senator unable to secure meeting with deported immigrant in El Salvador. He had not been allowed to see a Salvadoran immigrant who was mistakenly deported. There will be more members of Congress coming, Van Hollen said in an emotional media availability. This is an unsustainable and unjust moment, so it cannot continue. The senator's trip swiftly drew the ire of the White House. Again, they don't want fucking more eyes on their fuck up that they continue to double down on. Communications Director Stephen Chung called Van Hollen a complete disgrace. Not been legally in the U.S. prison prior to his deportation, a 2019 court order said he could not be returned to El Salvador, and the Trump administration admitted in court documents he was deported there due to a clerical error. Again, completely fucking flying in the face of what Stephen Miller said earlier. In recent days, administration officials have denied he was mistakenly deported. They have alleged he is a member of MS-13, which the administration has designated a foreign terrorist organization, to claim his attorneys dispute, and at least one federal judge voiced skepticism towards. This, by the way, is another example, like the what good is a protest video I did. This is another example of a Democrat literally doing the bare fucking minimum for what any sitting representative should be fucking doing right now. Because it is very clear, everything we've seen, whatever happens in that prison, of which there are apparently copious human rights violations and abuses, probably dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of people there mistakenly who don't deserve to be suffering a living hell. And it is very clear that the El Salvadorian government, while taking millions of dollars of American money to facilitate this torture house, doesn't want people actually seeing what happens in there. Yeah, the Swamp Frog person. It's a huge for-profit prison filled with no precautions, given zero oversight and no recourse for releasing those falsely imprisoned. It's one that, remember, the Human Rights Watch said that we've never seen anybody released from it. I mean, they're building it for 40,000 people. And they don't give a fuck about overcrowding facilities, obviously. They have one cell, 2 toilets, 2 sinks for 100 fucking people. Like, what do you even do in the face of this kind of cruelty? That they want, like it's shit that is fucking beyond parody, man. Like, it's stuff that is like, oh yeah, and we're gonna use AI to export even more people. Like, fucking, how long until this private for-profit prison, until these contractors get their hands in there and people are working to do jobs, to do manufacturing jobs, to make products and exporting them from 40,000 people in this fucking mega prison that they want to fill up? The mind reels thinking about this kind of shit. Not just because of the, like, again, the insane amount of inhumanity, the cruelty at the nexus of all this shit that most people can't really fucking fathom. The idea of seeing people treated like this, knowing that there's nothing they did to deserve it, inspires in most regular people an empathy. But the true evil of all this, I feel, is that, like the Trump administration wants, it is meant to wear us down to the point where we do not care and we do not notice. People are noticing, though.